I was fortunate to have a dinner with a very important Caribbean man, Sir Courtney Blackman. And Sir Courtney Blackman is the architect of Barbados' economic success. He was the founding governor of the Barbados Central Bank. I met him in Sarasota. We had dinner with himself and his wife. And many of you may have gone to Barbados, and in 1966 Guyana was about 4 times richer than Barbados in terms of average income, in 1966 when the British left Guyana. And some of you may remember from your primary school and high school days, we were taught that Barbados in the old days was the least developed Caribbean country, and Guyana and Trinidad and Jamaica are the more developed. And this was up to in the 80s, 90s when I went to high school and primary school. And today, according to the United Nations classification, Barbados is the only non-North American, non-European, and only country outside of Japan that is considered a developed country. Yes, Barbados is a developed country. And this it accomplished in 1972, the Barbados founded its central bank, and Sir Courtney Blackman was the founding governor of the Barbados Central Bank. And one of the things Sir Courtney did, he created a center, a nerve center of research and intelligence at the central bank. And he told me an interesting story last night. And Errol Barrow, the founding prime minister, wanted to restrict the amount of money, foreign currencies, Barbadians can take out of Barbados. And so he called up the governor of the central bank, Sir Courtney Blackman, and say, we're going to, your policy, the central bank's policy is too liberal, the way you're allowing people to take out foreign exchange. He said we want to restrict it, and so Sir Courtney told the Prime Minister, told Barrow, don't do it, you're going to create a mess. And so the story went the next day, it was announced in the media that the Prime Minister will start to restrict foreign exchange going out of Barbados. This is the very early 70s. And he said he jumped in his car and he drove down to the Prime Minister's residence. And he went into the Prime Minister's office and he made this. He said, Errol, I said, Mr. Prime Minister, don't do it. Don't do it. Barbados don't have an underground foreign exchange market. And if you do this, it will happen. And if you know, an underground foreign exchange market is the breeding point of corruption. Right? And he pointed in the Prime Minister's face, and Errol Barrow actually listened to him. Listened to his main advisor. And the man who really, and Courtney Blackman is a very important person. And for those of you who are young, you should Google him and read some of his work. And you may ask yourself, why did Barbados succeed? What is it that Barbados did? What is it that they had that Guyana did not have in 1966? And as you know, really, Barbados is a very small island, 166 square miles. Guyana is 83,250 square miles. Barbados has a lot of natural resources. Guyana has a lot of natural resources. Barbados has nothing except some beaches and the blue water. And the only thing that made the difference between Guyana and Barbados was good policy. It really was policy, and it is. If you read about the Barbados success, it's a remarkable story. And ever since the 26th of May 1966, when Guyana got its independence, starting from Bornham's Declaration of Socialism, Cooperative Socialism, to Cheney Jagan's critical support for nationalization. And Sir Courtney actually wrote about the nationalization, and that would destroy Guyana. And he has this was published like in the 80s, early 80s. But these are all things you can verify. And so aside from the nationalization, and jargon supported nationalization. And then 1992, the return to democracy. And democracy is one thing. And then, as you know, Dr. Dragon died in 97. And policy is actually torn for the worst. And I will address some of that tonight. Because there is this facade, there is this farce that is going on. And indeed, if you come out from the plain of Timeri and you drive down to the Georgetown, you'll see some new things. Huh? And some people say, hey, there is development. But I have news for you. There is really no development in Guyana. And I'll tell you why there is no development. You know, I am really not generous to the government. I am actually Barjagneo's biggest critic, actually, and I am proud of that title. And I can actually tell him that if I see him up front, that there is no development. And I write a column for Starbucks News, for those of you who may have read some of those. And I've actually outlined my thoughts on this. But Guyana really got its policy messed up. And here's a country without any major endowment of natural resources, developing rapidly, all because of sensible policies and 3 remarkable prime ministers, right? 3 remarkable prime ministers. And today, Guyanese who cannot escape to North America, where do they want to go? Well, Trinidad, of course, and Barbados. Whether you're black or you're Indian, they want to go to Barbados, right? And I read this, last year there was a story where, 2 years ago, sorry, where a Guyanese woman jumped in a trench in Barbados where there are a lot of bottles, broken bottles, just to escape the police, right? If Guyana is developing so greatly as the stories you are taught, you see these new buildings and so on, well then why are people escaping? I think the answers could be found in actually those tapes that you saw a few minutes ago. There is one word that is escaping it, and this one word is the clue why there is no development in Guyana. I'm a development economist, and I can tell you there is no development in Guyana, right? And before I tell you that one word, let me give you a clue why there is no development. A country, a nation, is only as rich as what it produces. Let me say that again. A country, a nation, is only as rich as what it produces. And it's an intuitive statement, and it's easy to understand, because if you leave high school and never study beyond high school, well, the data will show you that your chances of living a middle-class life is very slim, right? Let's take, for example, the United States. If all you have is a high school education, well, your chances of actually moving up is not as great. However, if you go study some more, perhaps get an accounting degree or get a master's, well, then your chances of growing more is greater, right? On the average, there will be some people who will succeed. You know, you might be in the right place at the right time. But most people, the more educated you become, you're able to produce more valuable things. You're able to earn more money, okay? That's why a lawyer makes more money than someone who works in McDonald's, all right? And it's no different for a country. If a country, since independence, is only producing sugar and rice and raw bauxite instead of smelting it into aluminum, which is part of the AFC plan, by the way, or just exporting logs instead of dressed wood and precision furniture. These are all things Guyana can do. And I'll tell you in a moment why these things are not being done. It's a conscious policy by the Jagdeo administration for these things not to happen. This is no joke I'm telling you here tonight. And this is why you have to do your research. Don't take it from me. All of these things are documented, thankfully, to the media of Guyana. The Kaitra News and the Starbucks News have done Guyana a remarkable service documenting the discrimination against businessmen and women who are not PPP supporters, okay? And have documented the blatant state subsidy of people who are friends of Jagdeo. So if you're not a friend of Jagdeo, you do not succeed in business in Guyana. This is a fact. Tax breaks, subsidy are given to friends of the government. Okay? So let me now proceed and tell you a little bit about this so-called development that you see. So we have a stadium, a new cricket stadium. Well, one of the things that, something else that aches me about the PPP is its loss. You see, PPP only believe that history only starts with PPP history, right? And they have actually, before I go to the stadium, they are currently destroying Border. And if you ever went up to the Georgian Cricket Club, it's a place of legacy, of history, and that entire place is now being destroyed. Part of Guyana's history, where Kanai batted, and so many great things took place. I have no problem with having a stadium, but I can tell you, a cricket stadium is not a sign of development. That will happen whether the AFC is in government, the PNC is in government, the WPA is in government. It will happen. This is how the cricket stadium was built. India gave Guyana $5 million. The cricket stadium cost $24 million US to build. And India gave Guyana $5 million grant and aid. Okay? And the other $90 million was borrowed from India at an interest rate. So you're borrowing money to build something that creates no jobs. Right? Get the point? When you borrow, you must at least be spending it on something that is creating income. Stadiums don't create jobs. It's a beautiful thing to have, huh? But you have to have other things taking place. The economy must be doing well, okay? And the AFC will build a stadium for sure. It's a nice thing to have. And so if you now, from the airport, you pass the cricket stadium, you pass through the back road, you probably will see a beautiful building, the CARICOM Secretariat. Well, that's the building that houses the CARICOM, all the people that work for CARICOM, the Caribbean community. It's a beautiful building. It was built by the Japanese government. It's a $7 million aid. It's an aid. $7 million US aid. Then next to that building, there's a Chinese convention center. That's a gift to Guyana. It was built by the Chinese government. And now, tell me, this is not really the way to run a country, to build some buildings with aid money. What really matters, these things will be done, but what matters, right? Again, let me go back. A country is as rich as what it produces, right? And if you look at those tapes, there is really one thing those workers are clamoring for. There is only one thing they want. And you know what? 3 words, 4 words. So 4 letters, sorry. Jobs. And that is the problem in Guyana. It's really jobs. And you may say, well, the AFC is talking big. How are they going to create these jobs? Well, we'll set the conditions for it. Now, sugar is in a mess. And sugar is in a mess. The sugar industry is dying because of the PPP. It's an irony, a great irony. In a sense, Jagan's legacy. Sugar is dying because of the PPP. Now, by the mid-1990s, and I'll tell you why sugar is dying and what the AFC will do differently on the issue of jobs. In the mid-1990s, many analysts, economists, people who understand international relations, wrote and document that it is not a good idea for the Caribbean, which includes Guyana, to keep spending more and more money into sugar per se. You have to diversify away. Okay? That is because the Lomé Convention, the agreement that governs the price of sugar that Guyana and Caribbean countries export to Europe, will come under threat. Okay? And for those of you who are following the news, 2 years ago indeed, the WTO, there was a challenge by Thailand and Brazil in the WTO that caused the Europeans to remove that effective subsidy that places like Guyana got. So if the market price is 8 cents a pound, Europe is actually giving Guyana 23, 24 cents a pound for sugar. It's a subsidy, right? And they knew from the mid-1990s